Connor was 22 and still lived in the small back bedroom of his parents' semi. His walls were a patchwork of posters, neon heroes, pixel art, limited edition prints that he'd queued hours for. Shelves bowed under collector's boxes. His desk was a glow of LEDs and dust, 2 monitors like twin moons. If he wasn't playing, he was watching someone else play. If he wasn't watching, he was reading about what to play next. He had a system for everything, which controller for which game, the exact angle of his chair, the cold pizza slices stacked on a napkin within reach. His mom would knock on the door in the morning and find him asleep, headphones around his neck, a video still running, the screen whispering boss guides to no one. So when a new city event called Level Up Live popped up on his feed, Connor didn't think twice. He bought a ticket. The website was slick. Black background, shimmering text, a sizzle reel of people gasping at holograms, trying out gloves that let you feel raindrops, helmets that mapped your thoughts, and at the bottom, a banner. Win a chance to try Dreambox, virtual reality. No headset, no wires, no limits, 10 winners only. He clicked enter with a grin. He filled in his details. He refreshed again. That night he watched an hour of speculation videos about Dreambox. People said it was a neural interface. People said it was a trick. A tiny post on a message board claimed, probably as a joke, that it was just a pill. 2 days later, he got the email. Subject line: "Congratulations, Connor, you've won." He read it twice, the second time slower, and then shouted down the stairs. His mom said, "That's nice, love," and his dad asked if there would be real jobs at this event. Connor laughed. He didn't hear the rest. He was already imagining the queue, the booth, the moment the future opened like a level select screen. On the day, Birmingham to the city was a quick train ride and a longer walk. The event hall looked like a spaceship had landed and grown windows. Inside, sound boiled. Trailers on giant screens. Crowds drifted past stands where people waved their arms to swat at invisible enemies. Connor drifted with them, buzzing, touching everything. He tried augmented reality glasses that put a dragon on his shoulder. He tested a controller shaped like a ring that read the flex of his finger. He watched a man demonstrate a helmet that squeezed his skull like a handshake every time he took damage. He took photos of the rumored sequel that definitely wasn't announced yet, then deleted them when a staff member in a polo glared. At lunch he ate chips standing up, his phone in one hand, the other scrolling the schedule. The Dreambox session was in the afternoon. Winners report to booth 17 at 14:30. He wiped salt on his jeans and checked the time again after 2 minutes. He wandered past a merchandise stand and almost bought another shirt. He didn't. He wanted to save his money for whatever came next. At 14:22, he was already at booth 17. Dreambox's stand was simple. No live demo, no neon. Just a matte black wall with the logo, a cube made of thinner cubes, glowing gently, like something alive behind skin. A man stood by a side door, neat hair, plastic badge, the kind of thin smile that didn't reach the eyes. He looked like a maths teacher dressed as an engineer. Nerdy was the word that sprang to mind, and then stayed. "Name?" the man asked. "Connor," he said, suddenly aware of the way he'd pronounced it, like the name itself was something to prove. The man checked a tablet and nodded. "You're one of the 10. Excellent. I'm Owen." He didn't offer a hand. He pressed the door open with a shoulder. "Right this way." The corridor behind the booth was narrow and quiet with that carpeted hush of conference spaces. Owen led him past a stack of flight cases, along a wall of laminated posters. Safety first, consent matters, emergency exit. Connor skimmed them and retained nothing. At the end there was a small room with a table, 2 chairs, and a cube on the table. The cube was the size of a tissue box, glossy and black, with tiny letters at each corner. Dreambox, spelled 5 times if you counted the reflection. "Take a seat," Owen said. He closed the door. The sounds of the event faded to a low throb, like distant thunder through double glazing. Connor sat. He put his hands on his knees and then on the table and then back on his knees. He smiled too hard. "So, no headset?" "No headset," Owen said. He opened a drawer and took out a blister pack. Inside were 4 capsules, clear shells filled with something that looked like silver sand. "Dreambox is a neuroactive delivery system. We're in alpha. You're part of a controlled pilot test." He slid a consent form across. "Read, sign." Connor skimmed the form. Words leaped out. Novel experience, no lasting effects, temporary sensory distortion, mild nausea. He signed. Owen didn't look at his signature. "How does it work?" Connor asked. Owen tapped the blister pack. "You swallow 1 capsule. The microparticles carry a signal to your visual cortex and associated regions. Don't worry, we've thought of safety. Once it binds, Dreambox renders content directly. We don't patch in sound yet, we simulate it through the language centers." "Elegant." "That's mad," Connor said, delighted. "It is," Owen agreed, without sounding delighted at all. He pressed the back of the blister pack and tapped 1 capsule into his palm. "When you're ready." Connor took it. It was slightly cool and heavier than it looked. He felt 11 years old peeking behind the curtain at a magic show. He put it on his tongue and swallowed with a dry throat. He had time to look at Owen, to think what now, to start to say it. Then his vision snapped. It didn't fade or blur. It turned. One moment there was a room and a table and a man with neat hair. The next, the world was a screen full of static, the black and white itch of an old telly that had lost the channel. He saw nothing and everything at once, a storm of dots. He gasped. The gasp echoed like a sound made underwater. "Good," said a voice, but not in his ears. It was in the place where you hear your own thoughts. Then the dots fell away like snow melting, and Connor stood in a gray stone arena the shape of a circle cut from a mountain. Above, clouds hung heavy and close. Below, the stone floor had cracks filled with frost. On the far side, a green thing uncurled. It was 7 feet tall and wrong. Its skin glowed faintly like moss under a torch. It had no eyes where eyes should be. Instead, its face was a smooth oval that pulsed as if it were breathing through that flatness. It raised a hand and its fingers split into more fingers. Too many. Too long. Connor stumbled back and looked down at himself because that was what happened when a cutscene ended and control returned to you. He wore armor, a blue breastplate etched with lines, fingerless gloves that hummed. His hands tingled. Sparks crackled from his palms and ran across his knuckles like quicksilver lightning. "Okay," Connor said to nobody and everybody. "Okay, I've got powers." He lifted his hands and the sparks turned to a rope of electricity that snapped across the arena and smacked into the green thing. It staggered, its chest compressing with a sound like a wet bag slapped on the floor. Connor laughed, breathless. He lifted his hands again, felt the charge build, let it go. It flowed through him like a shiver, and like a laugh, and like the moment just before you sneeze. The creature moved, faster than its mass should allow. It leaped and landed close enough that he smelled damp earth and copper. Its smooth face split like a wound, and Connor saw teeth arranged in a circle, shining white and clean as a dentist's tray. He ducked. It felt real to duck, and the ring of teeth closed where his head had just been. He rolled. Stone scraped his arm through the glove, and he thought, this is more than haptics. And then he didn't have time to think at all. They fought. He learned the timing, when to fire a bolt, when to let the current build, so he could throw both hands forward and send a crackling wave that broke along the creature's chest. He learned that if he stamped his foot, lightning danced in a circle around him like a crown that had fallen and shattered. He learned that he could feel himself smiling, even while he panted, even while fear braided with delight. The creature finally fell, folding like a tent collapsing. It steamed. The arena faded at the edges, the stone becoming static. For an instant, the dots were back. Connor had time to think, I did it. And then the world changed. Daylight. A street that looked like London if London had been bleached and emptied. Cars stood at odd angles, doors hanging open, posters peeled from walls. The air smelled like old rain and bin bags. Then from the end of the street came the sound that all games teach you to dread, the ripple of many feet in many shoes, the wet shuffle of what won't die properly. The first zombie rounded the corner. Its jaw worked like a broken hinge, more behind it, dozens, then hundreds. On the ground next to Connor was a rifle too big to be sensible, boxy and black, a cartoon of a gun made real. He picked it up and his hands found the grip like they'd been designed to fit it. He fired. The recoil was a thud that ran up his arms, the nearest zombie's head blooming into gray mist as it fell. He pivoted. He fired again. The sound stacked into a solid wall. Bodies tumbled and got up and tumbled again. He sidestepped, the way he did at his desk when the game asked him to strafe. He moved forward because the only way out is through. He laughed once, a high sound, because it was ridiculous and perfect. A hand grabbed his ankle. He kicked. Teeth scraped his boot. He stamped. He heard the crack of something old breaking. He kept firing. It went on for a long time. Eventually, the street narrowed to an alley. He backed into it, breath like knives in his throat. He glanced up and saw, in a window, his reflection for the first time since the pill. His eyes were white noise. 2 small televisions where his face should be. He froze, the gun sagging, and the zombies poured into the alley like water in a gutter. The picture broke. The alley dissolved. Grass, bright and harmless. A sky as blue as a sticker book. Trees like lollipops. Connor found himself running before he knew he'd started, legs pumping, the world scrolling sideways. A coin, no, a star, spun above a gap. He jumped, and it chimed as his fingers touched it. He landed on a floating block that bobbed and sighed. Ahead, a flag fluttered on a tower where a princess cried in a window in a way that made you want to laugh, and then felt wrong to laugh at. He ran. He ducked under something that looked like a smiling cloud with teeth. He bounced off something shaped like a mushroom that made a cheerful squeak as it died. He hit a block with his fist and a star popped out and he caught it, and the world sped up, and a song he didn't know he knew burned in his blood. He smiled so hard his cheeks ached. He jumped towards the final platform, missed by an inch, and was falling when a hand, not a hand, a whole world, pressed pause.
Good fidelity,
said the voice in his head.
Strong motor mapping, still lagging, file him away.
The world did not unpause. A menu he couldn't see swallowed him. He hung there, midair, between levels.
Requesting control for biome swap,
said another voice.
Let's trial the next winner. Authorized,
a third voice replied.
Mark him V2.1, proceed.
Connor tried to speak. His mouth moved and didn't. His breath went nowhere. Behind his eyes, something crackled. The sticker blue sky drained to hospital white. Grass vanished. A room resolved. No posters, no table, no corridor, just a floor that reflected nothing and walls that refused to come into focus. He stood on a disc the size of a dustbin lid. Others ringed him. On each disc, a person. Young, old, tall, small. each with the same hollow rhythm, each staring straight ahead, each with eyes like tiny televisions filled with snow. Connor tried to step off the disc and found he was paralyzed. He searched for Owen, for the laminated safety first sign, for any door he recognized. Nothing. A pane slid into place in front of every face, a visor made of warm glass. Letters grew on his. Dreambox V2.1, status, obsolete. Around him, the other labels gleamed, climbing and climbing toward numbers he didn't recognize, like locked levels waiting to be played. The lights dimmed a fraction. Somewhere, a cheerful voice said,
Great work today. Resuming at 9.
Connor blinked hard, willing the static to clear. It didn't. The room went dark. And somewhere behind a wall, a new email began to type itself. Congratulations, you've won. When Ellie Marsh's editor told her to write about Britain's most charming bakeries, she hadn't expected to drive into fog thick enough to taste. The sign on the edge of Hollowmere read, "Welcome to Willow Lane, home of Truman's bread, with a blessing." The smell hit her first, warm, sweet, alive. She parked, stepped out, and followed it straight to a squat stone bakery with golden light spilling from its windows. Inside, an older couple worked in perfect rhythm. Linda Truman kneaded dough with delicate prayer-like motions. Her husband Colin sliced steaming loaves so evenly it looked mechanical. "Good morning," Linda said brightly. "You must be the reporter." Ellie smiled. "That obvious?" Colin chuckled. "Not many strangers come to Willow Lane." Every shelf overflowed with bread, crusts crackling, air shimmering with heat. The customers spoke softly, almost reverently. Each thanked the Trumans as if for something sacred. "We bake for the village," Linda explained, "and for the church. Every Sunday the loaves are blessed before anyone eats." She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "That's why our bread never goes stale. A true blessing never does." Ellie laughed, but a tiny part of her felt uneasy. The church stood at the top of the hill, its crooked bell tower rising through mist. On Sunday, Ellie joined the villagers for the service. The smell of bread filled the pews. The vicar's voice trembled as he prayed, "May this bread bring peace to the hungry and rest to the lost." After the final Amen, the Trumans carried baskets of warm loaves to the altar. Each villager received a piece, whispering names before taking a bite, like saying grace for the dead. Linda noticed Ellie watching. "Our bread helps the village remember," she said softly. "Nothing in Hollowmere truly leaves us." That night, Ellie couldn't shake the words. Nothing truly leaves us. When she walked back to the inn, she passed the bakery. Through the fogged window, she saw Colin working late, turning the handle of a small millstone that groaned with each rotation. Flour dust hung in the air like mist. The next evening, Linda appeared at Ellie's door with a wicker basket. "You must join us for supper," she said. "You'll understand us better if you break bread at our table." Ellie hesitated, then curiosity won. The Truman cottage sat behind the bakery, walls heavy with ivy. Inside was cozy, ticking clocks, photographs, a fat orange cat named Biscuit. The scent of rosemary and yeast clung to everything. They ate thick slices of warm bread spread with pale butter. It was the best thing Ellie had ever tasted. Soft, sweet, almost alive. She closed her eyes, savoring it. When she opened them, both Trumans were watching her, smiling but not quite warmly. Colin refilled her plate. "You should stay the night. It's late, and the roads are cruel in mist." Ellie's instinct said no, but politeness, and the bread's drowsy comfort said yes. The spare room was neat and cold. From somewhere beneath the floor came a slow, rhythmic grinding. She told herself it was plumbing, old pipes, anything. But it was steady, like breathing. Unable to sleep, Ellie crept down the stairs. The house glowed faintly from the kitchen. There, at the back, was a door she hadn't noticed earlier. Thick oak, with a new brass key hanging beside it. The sound came from behind it. She reached for the handle. "Miss Marsh?" Linda's voice floated from the dark hall. "You'll catch your death down here. The cellar's no place for guests." Ellie stammered something about water. Linda smiled and guided her back up the stairs. Morning makes better company of most things. When Ellie shut her bedroom door again, her hands were shaking. At dawn, the couple acted as if nothing had happened. "Did you sleep well?" Linda asked cheerfully. Ellie lied and said she had. That morning she met the vicar outside the church. His eyes were tired, his collar crooked. "You're staying with the Trumans," he said. "Be careful what you eat." Ellie frowned. "What's that supposed to mean?" He looked away. "Hungry people make poor witnesses." That evening she returned to the cottage determined to see the cellar again. But the key was gone. Over dinner, Linda chatted about the village. Colin said little, slicing bread in perfect, practiced strokes. Finally, Ellie asked, "What's your secret ingredient?" They both looked at her. For a moment, even the clock seemed to stop ticking. Then Linda said, "We use what the village gives us, and the village gives everything." Colin smiled faintly. "We promised no one in Hollowmere would ever go hungry again, and we keep our promises." He stood, lifted the cellar key from his pocket, and opened the door. Cool air rose up, thick with the scent of yeast and something metallic. "Come," he said. "You should see the blessing for yourself." The cellar was vast, shelves lined with neat jars and sacks labeled with names and dates. Ellie's eyes widened. "Are those memorials?" Linda brushed her fingers over a jar. "Reminders." Inside the jar was pale dust, finer than flour. Beside it sat a small hand mill. Colin turned its handle and the grinding began again. Steady, rhythmic, familiar. "We give ourselves to the bread," Linda whispered, "so no one is forgotten." Ellie backed away, horror twisting her stomach. "You're using their remains," Colin finished calmly. "They're part of the blessing. It's what keeps the village alive." "Alive?" Ellie gasped. "You're feeding them." "Feeding them back," Linda corrected gently. "Every crumb, every bite, keeps Hollowmere whole. You've eaten it too, dear. That warmth in your belly, that's belonging." Ellie ran. She stumbled up the stairs, through the kitchen, into the night. The lane was empty, the fog closing in fast. She reached the old red phone box. Dead line. She turned, and Linda was there, apron fluttering, calm as a mother. "You'll only make it worse," she said softly. "Come back inside. Bread is best shared fresh." Colin appeared behind her, carrying a warm loaf in both hands. "Please," he said, "don't make us clumsy." Ellie took one step back. "You're monsters." Linda's expression flickered with hurt. "No, dear, we're bakers." The next morning, the bell rang over the bakery door. Villagers filed in, smiling, greeting the Trumans warmly. The shelves were full again, golden loaves stacked high, still steaming. A new sign hung above the counter. The Reporter's Special, Limited Edition. The vicar hesitated before taking his loaf. When he tore it open, a small silver charm tumbled out. A necklace, shaped like a pen. He looked up at Colin and Linda, but they were already serving the next customer, smiling as if nothing in the world had changed. The villagers ate and sighed with contentment. The bells rang, and from the bakery chimney, pale flour drifted into the morning air, glimmering like dust in sunlight. Because nothing in Hollowmere truly leaves. not even the ones who try. Ian Price was born tired. He spotted soft chairs the way truffle dogs spot mushrooms. He stretched 10-minute breaks into 20, and every morning he pictured the same screensaver in his head, winning £10 million and living a paradise of slippers and telly, but he was too lazy to buy a lottery ticket. What he did buy was time, by cutting corners. His new post round in Bourneville suited that talent. Same hedges, same polished brass knockers, same friendly ribbon of chocolate in the air, and the same old man on the green every morning tipping a battered trilby. "Good morning," the old man would say, voice like warm tea. Ian saved his breath and walked on. Halfway through the route, the pavement tilted toward Cotteridge. One last mile, one last street, Westfield Road, with stiff letterboxes that snapped at fingers. Ian hated that mile the way cats hate baths. On a Tuesday, he stared at the Westfield bundle of post, then at the public bin by the bus stop. He slid the letters in. Paper sighed against crisp packets. Nothing exploded. No manager leapt out waving a clipboard. Ian smiled. He'd just invented a shorter round. He did it again the next day, and the next. That's when he noticed it. A golden envelope, thick as a wedding invite and twice as smug. It flashed among the whites like a cheap crown. On the front, glossy red block letters shouted, "Free gift inside. Must be claimed within 7 days. Addressed to Mr. D. Evil, 12 Westfield Road, Cotteridge." Ian snorted. D. Evil. Cute. He turned the envelope. A round sticker sealed the flap, a grinning key over a keyhole. "Unlock your fortune." Advertising, he decided. 7 days was plenty. Into the bin it went. Next morning, another golden envelope. Must be claimed within 6 days. Same name, same address, same grin. Then 5 days, 4, 3. He kept them on top because the shine amused him. He told himself he was sparing some old codger a scam. He almost opened the 2-day envelope, thumbnail easing under the seal, then shrugged and fed the bin. The old man kept appearing on the green, trilby tipped. "Good morning," he'd say. Ian kept his words in his pocket. On day 7, the envelope yelled, "Must be delivered today. Final chance to win." The sky hung low and white. His postbag felt full of wet stones. Ian held the envelope, looked at the mile, looked at the bin. "Tomorrow," he said. "What's a day?" He lifted the lid. A van horn chirped. Manager Rourke pulled up, window sliding down. Square jaw, square voice. "Tell me I didn't just see you feed post to a bin." "Just flyers," Ian said quickly. "Duplicates." Rourke reached into the bin and came out with the golden envelope pinched like a guilty coin. He read the front. "This says, 'Final chance,' aye?" Ian's collar got hot. "You'll deliver everything to Cotteridge tomorrow," Rourke said quietly. "You'll walk the mile. You'll knock, if you have to. And if I ever see you bin post again, well, no round, no job." He set the gold back on Ian's trolley and drove off. As the van disappeared, the old man in the trilby seemed to step out of the exhaust fumes, eyes pale as winter violets. He tipped his hat. "Good morning," he said. Ian gripped the trolley and didn't answer. He barely slept. By morning, he was eager, actually eager, to do Bourneville fast, as if speed could buy forgiveness. He reached the slope into Cotteridge and pushed on. Gas bills, birthday cards, a parcel that thumped. He saved number 12 for last. 12 Westfield Road leaned toward its neighbor, as if sharing secrets. A rosemary bush sat clipped into a hedgehog by the path. The letterbox was a thin brass mouth. He raised the golden envelope. The door swung open. The old man from the green stood in the dim hall, trilby in one hand, moss green cardigan buttoned to a throat as thin as paper. His eyes were very pale and very awake. "Good morning," the old man said calmly. "At last." Ian slid the envelope in. "Just your post." The old man's mouth tightened kindly. "From your bin to my hall," he corrected and stepped aside. "Come in." The house smelled of old wood, tea leaves, and something sweeter, rose water with a darker note beneath, like smoke that had been taught to behave. On the hall table, a clock ticked, patient as a cat. The old man set the envelope down and ran a careful finger over the embossed name. "Mr. D'Eville," Ian read, half smirking. The old man's eyes glinted. "A play on words," he said. "Some names are more honest than others." He slid a thumbnail under the grinning key sticker and opened the envelope with ceremony. Paper side. He drew out a single thick certificate, black and gold border, laurel wreaths, an embossed seal shaped like a keyhole. Prize award, £10 million sterling. Claim date, yesterday. Void if delivered late. Ian let out a laugh that sounded like it had splinters. "Scam." "Not this one," the old man said. He looked up, and something old and hunger-calm moved behind his eyes. "This one keeps its promises." He set the certificate on the table and folded his hands. "Yesterday would have changed your life." Ian shrugged, a little too hard. "Guess I missed it." The old man sighed, a long, sad sound. "I guess you did." He brewed tea like people do who have made it all their lives. Cup, saucer, no tremble in the pour. Ian sat by the window that looked onto the rosemary hedgehog. A photograph of a laughing woman watched from the sill. "To think," the old man murmured, looking at the golden envelope. "What 7 small days can do." Ian felt a prickle of annoyance at the guilt creeping in. "It's just post," he said, "and no one really wins 10 million. The old man looked at him, pity softening his mouth. "Everyone wins something," he said. "The question is, what you choose to win." Ian huffed. "Look, I delivered it in the end." "In the end," the old man echoed. He set down his cup and rose. "Shall we stop pretending?" "Pretending what?" "That I am merely an old man," he said gently. The air tightened. His cardigan darkened as if a shadow climbed it. The trilby in his hand curled like a dry leaf and crisped to ash that never fell. Pale eyes deepened to coals. The skin at his temples creased into horns that weren't quite there and yet cast their own tiny, cruel shade. The room dimmed without losing light. Ian scraped back his chair, throat dry. What is this?" The old man, no longer merely old, smiled, and the smile had too many teeth inside it and none at all outside. "It's truth, Ian. You've met Mr. D'Eville every morning and never said hello." He spread his hands. The grinning key on the envelope seemed to grin wider. "I gave you a test," he said. "A small task. Deliver a letter within 7 days. Not a heroic quest, not dragon slaying. A mile and a knock." Ian's mind clawed for a door. "If I'd delivered it on time," he said, forcing bravado into his voice. "What? Would you have made me rich?" "Yes," the devil said simply. "I would have given you the prize money. You would have learned how to carry it, or not. Either way, the choice would have been yours." He tapped the voided certificate. "But you chose not to choose." Ian shrugged again, but it didn't land. "Look, I'm here now. It was just a day late." "Just a day," murmured the devil. "Just a habit. Just a life." He reached into the inner fold of the cardigan, if it was still a cardigan, and drew out another gold envelope. This one was deeper, richer, edges beveled like a book of hours. The seal showed the same key, but the keyhole around it seemed to breathe. "For those who fail the test," the devil said, voice newly soft. A consolation prize. He offered the envelope. Ian took it because his hand did not know how not to. Warm, heavy. The letters on the front were clean and neat. Ian Price, confirmed winner. His stomach turned over. Winner of what? Open it, Mr. D. Evil said kindly, like a parent letting a child discover a lesson. Ian slid his thumb under the seal. The grinning key peeled back with a whisper. Inside, on one thick card, black letters sat with the quiet confidence of a judge passing sentence. Congratulations, you have won. A permanent position. Postal courier, Infernal Mail Services. Start date, immediate term, eternity. There was a small illustration on the bottom corner, hands rising from cracked earth, offering a sack stuffed with letters that smoked. The card pulsed once, like a heartbeat. Ian looked up, ready to laugh, ready to throw the thing back, ready to say nice try, mate. The floor answered first. The rug went cold. A shadow soaked up from below, spreading like ink in water. Cracks spidered across the boards, thin at first, then widening, black and red alive inside them. Joke's over, Ian said, voice high and brittle. I'm leaving. He backed for the door. The door had become farther away than doors should be. Every day you threw away small promises, the devil said gently. Now the small promises come for you. From the cracks, hands grew, gray, sooty, sinewed. Not the clean hands of horror films, but work-hardened hands with bitten nails and red stamps ground into the knuckles. They seized his ankles with practiced care. Ian kicked. His heel met a wrist that flaked like ash and gripped like iron. Let go, he shouted. Help. No supervisors here, the devil murmured. Only routes. Ian lunged for the hall table. His fingers touched the voided certificate and skated off. He clawed at the door frame that kept walking away from him. He grabbed the rosemary hedgehog pot on the sill and hurled it. It smashed on the floorboards that were no longer floor but mouth. More hands, cold palms, hot wrists, fingers like ink and twine. They took his calves, his knees, his thighs. He sank to mid-shin, then to the knee. Why? He begged, throat burning. For letters? For a mile? For choosing to be less, the devil said. For feeding a bin and calling it a solution. For hearing good morning and deciding your breath was too precious. I'll change, Ian shouted, and he meant it so hard that the word tore. I swear, You will, the devil said. And if pity could be made of granite, it would sound like that. That's the point. The cracks yawned. Heat licked his shins. A smell rose. Paper singeing, ink weeping, old glue waking to flame. The room tumbled. The hedgehog rosemary fell past him like a small green planet with a bright comet tail of soil. The devil did not move. He merely stepped sideways and was at the lip of the pit as if the house had been designed around his feet. Ian dropped. Darkness pressed, then peeled back. He landed, standing, on a street that went forever. Lamps burned with no flame. Doors leaned inward with hungry letterboxes like thin mouths. Wind blew without moving air, carrying the papery whisper of a billion unposted whispers. Overhead, the sky was red where it wasn't black, and something turned slowly like a huge, lazy key in a lock too big for the mind. A sack thumped into his hands. It was heavier than any sack should be and light as a broken promise. He looked down. Every envelope was golden. Every one was addressed in his own careful writing. To someone I ignored. From a chance I threw away. The sack tightened. No, his hands tightened around the sack. A strap ached into his shoulder, a familiar ache that would never leave again. Footsteps clicked beside him. Mr. D'Aville strolled in a neat coat that wasn't a coat, and shoes that didn't touch the ground. He looked refreshed, as if a great weight had slid into place. "Welcome to the root," he said. "I won't," Ian said through his teeth. "You can't make me." "You already made you," the devil replied. "I am merely honoring your choice with its correct size." He gestured to the endless street. In the distance, a bell rang 3 times, not church bell notes. Something more, procedural. "Your round begins," he said. "You will deliver every letter, all of them. You will knock. You will wait. You will hear what you ignored. And when you reach the end, there is no end," Ian whispered. The devil's eyes warmed like banked embers, appreciating a student who finally read the problem. "Now you're learning." The nearest door was painted red. The paint bubbled as if it had boiled and cooled. The letterbox glared, thin and tight. Ian shuffled closer, the sack dragging. He pulled the first letter at random. 2. The old man on the green. From the good morning you kept. He tried to shove it into the slot, but the slot snapped at his fingers, the exact pinch he'd always hated. He hissed, then knocked. The wood was warm. The warmth deepened. The door opened a sliver. Inside, not darkness. Rooms made of moments, benches at dawn, trilbies tipped, steam curling out of cups, eyes as pale as winter violets. They brushed his face like spider silk, and then were gone. The letter disappeared. A stamp burned itself across the back of his hand. Delivered. It stung like a nettle and kept stinging. "That's one," the devil said, faintly bored. "Only all the rest." Ian turned. The street had grown longer while he wasn't looking. He worked. He knocked. He bled a little. He blistered a lot. He delivered to doors labeled with everything he'd saved his breath from. To Mum's fence. From Sunday you skipped. To Rourke. From the rule you needed. To Patel. From the mile forgives you if you walk it. Sometimes the doors howled. Sometimes they whispered secrets he'd pretended not to hear in the living world. The soft quiver in a stranger's thank you. The tired bravery under I'm fine. The way a dog's wag meant notice me more than good boy. With each delivery, the stamp on his hand brightened, and the sack was still full. "How long?" he asked, voice raw. "Until your laziness breaks its back carrying what it made," the devil said mildly. "You'll be surprised how strong it is. Laziness is not weakness, Ian. It is misplaced strength." "Please," Ian said once, knees shaking. "Please, I can do better." "You are," the devil said. "Eternity is very educational." Somewhere above, and yet also beside, there was Bourneville in morning light, hedges shining with last night's rain, a bus stop bin yawning like a pet that needed rehoming. Somewhere, a manager named Rourke signed a form, and a senior postie named Patel shouldered a route, and an old rosemary bush tried hard to smell like courage. Down here, the lamps never cooled. The doors never ran out. The sack never did either. Ian delivered good morning to 1,000 thin mouths, and it hurt, and it helped, and it hurt again. He learned to knock before the slot bit, to wait long enough for a timid latch to turn, to say the 3 words that open more doors than any key. "Sorry, I'm here." And behind him, sometimes, when the wind without air blew just so, he heard a voice like kettle steam say, "There you are." He never turned around quickly enough to see. That was part of it. At some point, minutes, years, both, Mr. D. Evil walked beside him again, hands behind his back, like a schoolmaster taking attendance. "You've lasted," he said. "Some don't." "I'm delivering," Ian said, and hated the hope in his own voice. "You are." The devil regarded him with what could almost be called pride, if pride had thorns. A route completed is a beautiful thing. It is also rare. This one, I should tell you, does not end. Ian closed his eyes. One hot tear cut a track down his ash-dust cheek. But the devil added, you will find rhythm. Rhythm? The long mile is kinder when you stop fighting the ground. He stopped, turned fully to Ian, and for a heartbeat the horn's shadow vanished, and he looked like the old man on the green, trilby-tipped, eyes tired and kind. I offered you fortune for 7 days, he said. You offered me excuses, so now I offer you work. Deliver what you touch, no bins, no tomorrows, only doors. He inclined his head, almost a bow. Good morning, Ian. Ian's throat closed. He nodded. Good morning, he said back. The devil smiled, small and satisfied, and faded as if walking into a different layer of the same day. They say that on certain damp mornings in Bourneville, when the chocolate smell rides the air like a memory and the hedges shine, the bus stop bin at the Cotteridge Junction rattles its lid all on its own, as if something inside wants out and has learned better. They say the rosemary at number 12 found new roots through cracked boards and grows bushier every year, little green hands reaching down as well as up. They say that if you walk the long mile with your eyes open and your hands empty, you might hear a soft knock behind your chest. If you open, a thin brass mouth will whisper, "Good morning," and you'll have a choice. It won't be heroic. Not a dragon, not a mountain, just a mile, just a knock, just a golden envelope addressed to the truest version of your name. Deliver it within 7 days. No bins. And if, when, you pass the bus stop, tip your head and say it out loud for the quiet man in the trilby who tested you before you knew you were being tested. Good morning, Mr. D. Evil. If the wind answers like kettle steam, there you are, walk on. You've got a round to finish.